All right, well, officially, hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome online and in person to Concordia University's Fourth Space. Thanks so much for joining us for the launch of and readings from Headlight 24. So excited to have you join us for this event today. Before getting started, we'd like to let everyone know that we are streaming to YouTube live from Fourth Space, which is located on unceded indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Nous reconnaissons la nation Kanien'kehá:ka comme gardienne des terres et des eaux sur lesquelles nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui. And we make this acknowledgement to bring awareness and understanding of the history of indigenous peoples and their territories that we occupy. I understand that we have a new cohort of students joining us here in person today. So allow me to introduce you to Fourth Space a bit more formally. I gather you've enjoyed your mingling, snacking time, and now that you're seated comfortably, we can tell you what we do here. So we're Concordia University's knowledge mobilization public space. We work with faculty, students, as well as staff to activate the ongoing research projects and major initiatives that are brewing within Concordia University, really with the goal of co-creating and building community as well as knowledge. And we do this by producing daily hybrid activities such as this one that are all free and open to the public. So you're welcome to come back throughout the school year any number of times to check out the programming and what's going on here on a daily basis. All right, I'll stop there and welcome you in once again. Pass the floor now to Carlos. Hi, Carlos.
Hi everyone. Salut, Kwekwe. Welcome to the Headlight relaunch. And today I have the joy of opening the floor. I'm the sacrificial poet, if you will, something like that. My name is Carlos Apitel. I use he, him pronouns. I'm one of the co-managing editors of Headlight 24. I briefly saw the other co-managing editor on the Zoom there, Shireen El-Banhawi, is joining us from Egypt today. And we worked hard with the editorial team to reignite Headlight after the pandemic. As we all know, a lot more than literary journals were hit. And today, I feel like I'm speaking for myself, but also representing Shireen today, is a bittersweet moment. We are celebrating, but also the end of a cycle, as we just symbolically pass the baton to the new editorial team. And that also makes me think of the meaning of Tiohtià:ke, right? The indigenous name sometimes is translated as the place where rivers meet and people part ways. So it feels like a parting of ways for our group today. But I'm also excited to pass the baton to the new team, which is still incomplete. You should know that the call for new editors is still open until Sunday night, September 3rd, and 11:59 p.m. And we will close the call at midnight. So I am one of those people that will look at submissions at midnight. So yeah, don't send us Monday morning. Send us submissions until Sunday night. And some of the editors will continue. It's always nice of Headlight that some editors continue as they move from their first to the second year in the MA program. It's also open to the graduate students, the PhD graduate students, also the interdisciplinary humanities students. And I should say there are two different types of positions. There are the editorial positions. Those are open only to graduate students in the English department, the managing editors and the genre editors. But also we have a lot of staff positions open. These are open to any students, grad, undergrad, from any department. So you should definitely consider applying. What else should I say? It's a wonderful experience to be part of Headlight. We had a blast. And you get to work with different centers in the English department. We got to collaborate with Spoken Web. Professor Jason Kemlet is here today somewhere. And Spoken Web helped us record audio for all the pieces accepted. We also collaborated with the Center for Expanded Poetics. That's where we printed with the risograph this issue. And our designer, Evelyn O'Hanley, is here today as well. Shout out to Evelyn for doing this beautiful work. And yeah, exactly. I agree. You can see it's like a living, breathing issue made with rhizome. And Writers Read, who helped sponsor this event and helped us bring Manahil from out of the province. And shout out to Writers Read as well. And of course, the English department, and then many, many, many other funders and sponsors. It's always an epic adventure to fund Headlight. And of course, you get to make friends. I will introduce a few of them today. They are emceeing the event. And I see Alex here, who helped organize the event, Alex Afonso, our creative nonfiction editor. And I will pass the microphone soon to Misha Solomon and Ariella Ruby, our respective consulting editor and fiction editor of Headlight 24. And they are moving into different roles, but the roles are still undefined until we close the applications. And without further ado, I will invite Misha and Ariella to MC today's event, and I'll be in the back selling issues to anyone interested. Thank you very much for space, and thank you everyone for coming to join us. I hope you enjoy.
Hi, thank you so much, Carlos. So the first thing I want to do is just give a huge shout out to our co-managing editors of issue 24, Carlos and Shireen, who's not here. Carlos and Shireen were really the driving force behind all the work we did at Headlight last year. And without them, none of the awesome stuff that we accomplished would have been possible. Just to give you a brief summary of the hours and hours of work that Carlos and Shireen put into bringing Headlight back to life after the pandemic. The first thing they did was bring back what we nicknamed the lost issue, which was issue 23. And that was the issue of Headlight that kind of got stuck in limbo for 3 years over the pandemic, but we were able to track down all the pieces and we published it online, which you can find on our website. And yeah, that was a really great thing that Carlos and Shireen were able to accomplish. And after that, we were able to move on to doing some work like archiving all the past issues of Headlight, which you can check out on our website for the first time. They're all available to read. Some other innovations that Carlos brought was bringing in sound for the first time. We hired Miranda Eastwood, a former student in the creative writing program, to be our audio editor, and almost every single piece in issue 24 was recorded. You can also find that on our website and listen to the piece being read by the author while you follow along in our amazing book. And yeah, we're just so proud of everything that we were able to do last year. We had our first launch at Distill Books at the start of the summer. And we're thrilled to be able to have you guys here for our second launch, to have the second half of our readers read from their pieces. So without further ado, I'm just going to let Misha say a few words and then we'll get started with the readings.
Stay up here, we're co-MC. I got a second mic for this. Hi everyone, so thanks Ariella. Yeah, as Carlos mentioned, thank you so much to Alex Afonso, who really took the lead on organizing this second launch. He was also the nonfiction editor for this issue, and you'll be hearing more from him as he introduces some of our nonfiction readers. Yeah, we have, there's people in this audience who have been involved in earlier issues of Headlight, which has existed since 1998, and we do have previous issues on sale. We don't have that initial 1998 issue, but we do have other previous issues on sale at the back of the room. So please don't hesitate to spend money for a reasonably good cause, literature, I guess. We have a lot of exciting things coming up for Headlight this year. Like Ariella said, Carlos said, applications are open until tomorrow for a variety, for the second, that's more than tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, for a variety of roles. It's going to be an exciting year. We're finalists with Force Avenir, which is a large, semi-paragovernmental organization that is going to give us money. We have to go to a gala in Quebec City to get the check, but we're very excited about that. And it's going to be a great year now that Headlight is back and better than ever. It's always been great, but I'm saying that proudly. So yes, go spend money. If you don't have cash, you can send me an Interac e-transfer because I'm the only person on staff old enough to have checks. So I have a checkbook still, and then I'm going to introduce Olive Andrews, who was the poetry editor for this issue of Headlight, and Olive is going to introduce our very first reader. So Olive, come on up.
Hello, I'm Olive. You're really meeting the whole team before we get to the readings, but I promise we're almost there. I had the pleasure of being the poetry editor for issue 24 of Headlight. It was the loveliest time. We had the greatest team, and I'm so excited for you to hear the second half of our team today, of our readers. I got there eventually. Okay. I'm very excited to introduce our first reader, ALHS. ALHS is a poet and critic. She lives and writes on the unceded land of the Lekwungen peoples. Please welcome ALHS.
Hi, Olive. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and I am joining you from Victoria on the unceded land of the Lekwungen peoples. I'm very, very excited to be here, and I have my little copy, and I'm going to read my poem, Notes on Simultaneity. To breathe as you breathe is to say as the cloud being said, let us drink of time. So it was that they unsettled the stillness of an ocean, the cloud beings on one side, greed on the other, and a mountain for a turn. All that is mortal at once. And God, your likeness, he bore that cloud-peaked mountain on his back as it turned and shifted in iridescent dreams. You stood also foremost among the cloud beings, stirring the ocean into foam, and it was you, likened, who walked ashore with time and other Penatian things. Your laughter, your song, your breath to breathe along. So too were you the breathtaking, with feet poised, threatening to leave, meeting palmfuls of time for the cloud beings and leaving no dregs for greed to greet after. The story shifts in my iridescent dreams, in each recitation a note on simultaneity. In time, you will be all of the words in the story, a sky alight with times you have become the sun. And tell me the story one time more, perhaps you will be also the ocean and the churn. You will be what it is to breathe, one time more, and you might turn to answer greed. Thank you. I was given the opportunity to read a second poem, and I was going to read something else, but Carlos very kindly requested this one, and it's published in CV2, and it's called When I Wear My Yellow Jumpsuit, Oh Says I Look Chosen by the Sun. It's a poem after Anne Carson's preface poem to the Bacchae. So, when I wear my yellow jumpsuit, oh says I look chosen by the sun. And this forecries such spectacle of disaster, it might as well have stained my heels purple. Imagine the brightest colors mark the ice, like a lure, and the sun and cinnamon sweetness of a prophecy follows you everywhere. Omens of paddle boats and autumn candles, oh portentous ginkgo. Whisper lights at each crossing, flirt, prophesy, and promise it's a surprise. A tautology. Even the sun was foretold to shatter into position and its light, and divined into two gods by the time O came by. Two suns in the windows startled my eyes for days. Mock sun, downtown mirage. Here I go seeing things again. In the history of myth, the sun causes, cures, intimidates, prevents, transforms, perhaps undoes madness. The sun also is culpable of performing grand nothings. Cassandra walked in reciting Mivosh and halved the dramatic irony of the house and herself. The second sun is only light in my eyes, converging beyond the vanishing points in a genealogy. Have you ever held a brain scan to the light? The sun is not the god of madness, but of its inevitability, of predicting a fire with precision, unerring, and burning the house down to fulfill that prediction, of hand-me-down access and being fucked from the start. Marked against cerebral foretelling and bloodlots, I dress my best mouth already governed by autoelegy and excess. Elusive prophecy, god of light. Prophecy, the elusive god of light. Prophecy, the god of elusive light. I await falter. I await knowing sunlit in a prophecy, the truth is told in two ways. A tautology of again and still. Thank you.
Hi, so now it's my pleasure to introduce Nadia Trudel, who will be reading from her story Goblin, which was one of the two pieces that I selected for our fiction features in Headlight. And Nadia is a Tiohtià:ke, Montreal-based writer, culture journalist, audio storyteller, one-time playwright, and general attention seeker. And without further ado, please come read for us, Nadia.
Hi. Wendy Kaufman is dead. It feels so good to get that off my chest. I could just shout it from the rooftop, but I won't, because then the people parked outside Wendy Kaufman's house would hear. Wendy Kaufman is dead, and it's a secret. Only 2 people in the world know. The reason it's still a secret is that we haven't talked about it since we decided. And by we, I mean Ivy, but maybe I'm avoiding responsibility. My therapist said so. My therapist doesn't know Wendy Kaufman is dead because I am Wendy Kaufman. So I talk about a friend I lost named Maria. That's Wendy's real name. I tell Dr. Grant that I miss Maria, that I feel guilty, that I feel angry. I've never told Dr. Grant that I am also glad, relieved that Maria, Wendy Kaufman, is dead. Dr. Grant suggested that I write a letter to Maria. Maybe I will. What could I say? Sorry you died and I agreed to be you so people could keep profiting off Wendy Kaufman. But I'm deflecting blame again. I profited the most. I used to be able to go months without thinking about how Wendy Kaufman is dead. I grieved, but Wendy Kaufman has a busy lifestyle, exciting, so it was easy to get caught up in things, forget that I wasn't really Wendy Kaufman and that she had died. Things have slowed down though, and I'm getting older. Nowadays, she's all I can think about. She's in my dreams. We look identical, but I can just sense it's her. I guess we won't be identical someday. I keep getting older and she's forever 19. Lucky bitch. I thought about it more and I guess we're already no longer identical. She must be like a skeleton by now, right? The big question is, what would she think of me being Wendy Kaufman? Of course, we'd like to think she'd be happy that I am maintaining and furthering her legacy or whatever, and that I finished her album and then continued to make albums. But I'm also Maria. Her parents don't know Wendy Kaufman is dead, so they don't know Maria is dead. I resent them for not being able to tell the difference between their daughter and a stranger. I guess it's okay. We have that in common. When you think about it, who's really Wendy Kaufman? She was Wendy Kaufman for 3 years. I've been Wendy Kaufman for 8, and I might be for 80. Wendy Kaufman is an African artifact, and I am the British Museum. I stole it, and because it's been so long, I refuse to give it back. Without the stolen artifacts, the British Museum has nothing. I sort of lied earlier. Wendy Kaufman and I are not totally identical. Almost. People don't know Wendy Kaufman is dead, but they do know Wendy Kaufman got in a big accident 8 years ago. She was in the hospital for 2 months. The accident explains for any slight changes. Besides, everyone knows fame changes you. After the Black Dahlia era, Wendy Kaufman got a tattoo for alter ego's floral namesake. Wendy Kaufman and I went to the movies once. I think it was the only semi-normal hangout we ever had. They were playing a gory, experimental indie drama about the real Black Dahlia, the one who was murdered, you know? We took a walk after and I just listened to Wendy talk about the Black Dahlia. Isn't it kind of awful that we never call her by her real name, she asked. The journalists just made that name up. She never gave permission. She thought about it more. It is a pretty name, though. Romantic, glamorous. Wendy, she was cut in half. I mean, it's sick, totally, but it's also weirdly poetic, don't you think? I don't know. Two names, two halves, kind of like us. Then a fan walked over and asked me, Wendy Kaufman, for a photo. Her, Wendy Kaufman, took the picture. I don't know much, but I'm pretty sure Wendy would have liked that I thought to use that name for the one album. A break from being Wendy Kaufman. She'd like the tattoo, too. Today I got an M tattooed on my hand. Maria and Melissa. I'm Melissa. I was Melissa. Maria and Melissa. Funny coincidence. Both dead. No one remembers either. But at least I remember Maria. I forget about Melissa. Poor Melissa. I had a panic attack today, like Wendy Kaufman. They were outside the dance studio waiting, then they followed me home. They used to follow Wendy Kaufman more, but then she stopped going out. Whenever she's not working, she's at home. I started getting anxious being in big crowds, so no parties or clubs. Wendy Kaufman is still okay with concerts because she's above them all in her own little world, and they just watch. I only saw Wendy Kaufman have a panic attack once. She was in a limo. She was meant to go on a carpet, but it happened before she got there. I got a call and I had to clock in. We changed clothes in the limo with a small team in our company. I felt bad for her. She had no dignity, but they managed to take even more. She was naked and still crying when Wendy Kaufman got out of the limo, fully dressed. It's uncanny, my body doing this thing, her big weakness, the reason I was found, the reason I exist. Ultimately, the panic attack itself freaks me out more than what actually caused the panic attack. I had good intentions at first. I wanted to protect Wendy Kaufman. She was a sweet girl, shy. She'd started getting panic attacks because of all the attention. So they just hired me to distract or fill in occasionally. That's all. An innocent body double. You know how it goes. When I first met Wendy Kaufman, I thought she was beautiful. We were both giddy the day we met. We got ice cream and I went to the studio with her. We kept touching each other, checking to see if the other one was real. She said it was a miracle. She believed in those kinds of things. She also believed in things like sin and karma and hell. I always ask myself why I said yes. A choice was presented, but really it was an illusion. Who could say no to being Wendy Kaufman? If I wasn't going to be Wendy Kaufman, I wouldn't exist. Someone has to be Wendy Kaufman. Might as well be someone convincing. Wendy Kaufman is very busy nowadays. She feels better when she's working. And it makes Wendy Kaufman's fans happy when she makes music and she performs and when she's pretty and skinny and smiling. This is why I'm Wendy Kaufman. Wendy Kaufman wouldn't mind. She'd be grateful, really. Pat me on the back. One day she will pat me on the back. She'll kiss me right on the mouth. I saw my parents today. I missed them. They complain that I don't come home often enough. My mom asks if it's true that I'm dating Swan. She reads everything about me. So do I. I'm Wendy Kaufman's biggest fan. My dad gave me an old diary with song lyrics. I used to always write my own songs. You keep us up at night playing piano, he says. Did I? I guess so. The grand piano in my house is gorgeous, but decorative. When they hug me goodbye, my mom says, I love you, Maria. Maria's parents, not mine. My inheritance. I wonder where my parents are. Have they forgotten me too? But well, if it mattered, then I'd know. If Melissa mattered at all, she wouldn't be dead and forgotten either. I should try writing lyrics again. Turning distress and negativity into art sounds like something that therapists would tell me to do. Given or taken, blessed or cursed, star, saint, or sinner. Wendy. Wendy of loneliness, Wendy of jealousy, beautiful Wendy, insecure Wendy, mint choco flavored Wendy, Wendy the fraud, Wendy underground, Wendy in stripes. It's all Wendy. Tell me the name lingering on my lips. Please call my name. Dear Wendy, I'm sorry that you are dead, but you are so lucky to have me. You came back from the dead. You're a vampire. I'm trying to be a good Wendy, a good girl, so please be on my side. I hope you didn't suffer too much when you died, but maybe Ivy had mercy and just smothered you in the hospital bed. I think she's out to get me now too, so I don't sleep. She's probably found another Wendy Kaufman, or maybe Ivy is switching it up and she's found another Black Dahlia. I wonder if you were a good person. Please write me back to let me know if you're upstairs or downstairs so I know where to go. I want to see you and hear all your names. Love, Maria. I think Melissa is evil. I'm scared of her. I think she wants to kill me. The show must go on, forever and ever and ever. 1 for the money, 2 for the show. On 3 we get ready, and on 4 we go. Thank you.
Okay, so before I introduce the next reader, just a reminder that all of these pieces are available in the issue of Headlight that you can buy at the back of the room, but also on headlightanthology.ca, the beautiful website that our previous editorial team put together, and all the recordings of the pieces are available there as well. And if you go to the news section of that page, you can see the call for applications for the new editorial team. If a lot of you here are first-year students in the master's program, just a reminder that the bulk of the editorial team this year was first-year students, and so please do not hesitate to get involved right away. Our next reader is coming up is Kim Poirier. So I'm a consulting editor for Headlight. That doesn't really mean anything, so I'm going to introduce some of the poets. Kim Poirier is a Montreal-based writer, poor person, and globally recognized eater of spaghetti. She was the 2021 recipient of the Dawson College Space Award for short fiction, and her work has appeared in OFIC Magazine, Soliloquies Anthology, Orange's Journal, Beaver Magazine, and others. Kim.
Hi. I don't normally write poetry, but oops, here I am. I have 2 short poems in Headlight Anthology, and I am going to read them both for you today. So thank you for being here. All right, so greening. There's a green wildfire of mint in a terracotta pot, and there's a sheath of summer-smelling parsley woven against the ground. There is a you on the yellow seat with wine, you who gathered African violets in her arms and stole them with rushing, nervy steps from their greening golden continent. And there's a toothpick tilted against your lips, inert Levantine wood, droll and unassuming. Your body screams, yes, God, and you're the Irish repressed, green eyes, our Zambian mind and dollar minted, and your Fashion Nova clothes come from nowhere at all. It's 1 second, Montreality. A light blue metro car travels down a cannibal's throat. The Place Ville-Marie searchlight swivels. Leonard Cohen's look of faint play adjudicates the cold and hookery street. I am so vanishingly small beneath the hot, perfervid red shadow of the Mount Royal crucifix. My cry is in the concrete. My cry is in the bottle glass. My cry is in the frost. Not the gestalt of the thing, but some slice. Thank you.
So next up, we have Alex to introduce our next nonfiction piece.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Alex, the nonfiction editor for issue 24. And today I'm going to be introducing the 2 readers for nonfiction. The first one is Lauren Smith. So Lauren Smith is a Concordia student by day and an artist by night. She enjoys late-night printmaking in the dark room and sitting on park benches typing her thoughts in her phone's notes app. Please join me in welcoming Lauren to the stage.
Hi. So I'm going to be reading just a section of my piece titled Unspoken. It was just before Christmas when the Omicron variant spread, and the city of Montreal was once again inflamed with infection. I was sitting with my friend Allison and her flatmate Rosa on the tattered couches in the living room of their apartment as we awaited the arrival of our friend Oscar, who lived on the floor below. He entered the door with a bag from which he pulled out 3 parcels wrapped in patterned paper and proceeded to hand one to each of us. In exchange, he received 3 smiles, perhaps the most rewarding being Rosa's. As her fingers touched the paper, her mouth stretched so wide that Allison and I couldn't help but giggle, joining in her pure delight. "This is my first time getting a Christmas present," Rosa said with kilojoules of energy coursing through her veins. Still, she handled the gift so delicately. She tilted it back and forth, examining it as if she wanted to remember every detail, from the creases where the paper was folded to the feel of the smooth plastic ribbon between her fingers. I could tell this would be one of those distinctive moments for her, vivid in her memory. It was certainly vivid in mine. Hidden within the festive paper of my gift was a sturdy, thread-bound journal in an olive green and a card with a few verses of poetry written in Italian. Growing up, I had an extensive collection of notebooks, each for a different purpose, my favorite being dedicated to the research and planning involved in catching Santa Claus on video. I was often gifted notebooks, such as the one I received from my childhood best friend, with a note that said, "One day you will write like Hemingway," the only famous author she'd heard of at the age of 10, but most certainly hadn't read. Then there were the many others my dad would bring back from work, my dog's sharp bark indicating his arrival. I'd enter the kitchen and be pleased to find a new notebook laying on the counter, each time with a different law firm's contact information on the front. He would offer me a few candies as well, unfolding his palm to reveal starbursts, and with a grin asking, "Do you want a little burst of sunshine?" They were usually slightly warm from being kept in his pocket, but I always accepted them because the notebooks and candies were our way of communication. With time, his offerings became increasingly rare. Weeks passed without a word shared, until one quiet evening in May, I received a notebook again. Its vibrant red color stood out against the contrasting bright blue of our laminate countertops. I was surprised to find a message on the front, handwritten in blue ink on a yellow sticky note that read, "Lolo, for all your deep thoughts." Despite his efforts at communication, he wasn't around that night for me to thank him. Just like he wasn't around to pick me up from dance practice or church or watch me win the school board speech competition back when I wasn't afraid to use my voice. He could have been at Joe's again, wasting the hours of daylight drinking in that dingy garage. Maybe he was at the pub. Maybe he was somewhere we wouldn't have guessed, but would later learn the address from a parking ticket mailed to our house. I never told him how I felt about his habits. It'd be a waste of breath. Not even my mom could get him to attend the 12-step program, and he persistently ran from doctors. We all wanted to help him. I'll never understand why he didn't want to help himself. A loud rip brought my attention to the pain in my chest. My throbbing heart tore like the gift wrap that was now scattered around the carpet in crumpled balls. With a deep breath, I remembered my surroundings. A room full of cheap plastic lights in red, yellow, blue, and green, obnoxiously blinking at me as if to cheer me up. They didn't, but it didn't matter because the excitement had passed for us all. Rosa's childlike bliss had faded, and we sat, without saying a word, as we listened to the sounds of distant cars passing through the crack of the opened window. It was as if a gust of melancholy had blown in. We couldn't ignore the news reports. Another lockdown would be coming. Oscar lit a cigarette and glanced across the room at Allison. She was staring at the paper balls amongst her feet, kicking them around. I picked at the frayed upholstery of the cushion beneath me, twirling the dark blue threads around my pointer finger. Rosa sat upright with rigid posture, her shoulders tensed as she looked at us with troubled eyes. She then shifted her gaze downwards, and in a somber voice, she murmured, "Did you hear about the suicide at the station today?" the images in my mind slowly melded with my reality as I looked down at the journal in my lap and thought back to the little red book I had unexpectedly received from my dad. That was the last of all the notebooks he would give me, its final page torn out and used to write a letter.
Okay, thank you so much. And before I introduce our next reader, some thank yous for some other people who made this event possible. So thank you very much to Professor Kevin Pask and to Liz in the English department for putting together this, helping us to put together this event and organizing the lunch. So thank you so much for that, Kevin and Liz. And thank you also to Professor Sina Queres and Writers Read for their generous support of the event and of Headlight. So thank you very much to those folks. And to the department in general for being supportive of the project. So our next reader, speaking of the department, is someone in the department, Malaea. Malaea, I'm pulling up your most recent bio. Give me a second. Malaea just emailed me a new bio because they're part of a project that I'm putting together. Okay, Malaea Ergina is a writer from Jojage, Montreal. Her work has appeared in Headlight Anthology and Labyrinth. Recently, she contributed to a collective chapbook, Terrifying Friends, which is forthcoming from Collusion Books. Malaea.
Is this okay? Okay. I knew even before I came up I would have to do that. I always have to do that because otherwise no one else would be able to use this microphone. Let's see. Thank you, Misha, for reading my updated bio because I am graduating soon, so the old one is no longer accurate. And without further ado, I will read my poem that's in the issue and then maybe another one because this is pretty short. It's called Triptych. 1. The hair that grows from the bathroom wall is wavy and dark, slick with condensation, unruly. When the body is lost, the hair is still present, still growing, still clinging wetly as I brush by it, uncoiling down the wall. Knotted, grasping, infinitely growing, infinitely hungry, uncontained animal longing, uncontained animal filth. 2. Like leftover crepe paper streamers, the moth webs trail down the ceiling, sticky, gray, multiplying, dust more dust, shivering, writhing as the moths burst out. In the bed, body webbed and sticky with pain, there's something else moving too, a soft and ceaseless motion, the unwilling movement of life in a dim room filled with insect casings and unwashed laundry. 3. The flowers on the shelf are just dead things that don't know they're dead yet. Meanwhile, the spider plant is dying in the corner, and the things you acquired for nurturing are brown and dead. Meanwhile, you pull your body behind you on a leash, which is sometimes very long and sometimes very short. Your body's so close, you can feel its breath on your face. Another thing to feed and water, another unbearable thing. And then I'm going to read 3 sections from my ghost story sequence. Ghost story 1. Flesh sack meat thing inside the container, it's all wet, mineral sediment clogging the pipes, trace amounts of feeling, too little and then too much, slow bones moving like a rusted door, a sensation like falling but through perception, finger joints sore, I'm alone in this house, trace amounts of knowledge, isn't pain just another room to enter in the body, time a moment after a moment, leaving no traces at all, what does dust herald, what does ash mean, I don't want to run after things or I can't, I think, what does it mean to be cruel? Didn't you want an encounter with the animal? I mean the other, I mean yourself. Don't you want to know where your body ends up? Ghost story 3. I wake up hot. I'm absenting myself from the oil shell gleam black-tongued with it, licking the grease off a new shape, mouth spaghettified beyond coherence, belching up star fragments, trying to forget my body as a way to persist. I dreamed of the words parabolic light. I dreamed I was Googling, what's the point of hell from hell? I dreamed I had a body again, a body polluted but with radiance. Ghost Story 6. Bleeding once again, spurred by improper offerings, I'm bored by it, bored by pain and its obliteration, bored by rattling the cage like a gust of wind, bored by scraping the air into the mouth and out again. Before the wall started bleeding, the house wasn't so bad. Doesn't everything decay? Something winds up the wiring, system of swollen tubes, subject to pressure, subject to atmospheric conditions, subject to time and therefore rot. Sometimes I ask whether I'm the ghost or the final girl. Does this distinction matter if the gesture is the same? Get up, lurch forward, keep going. Thank you.
All right, so our next reader for today, one second. So our next reader for today is Paz O'Farrell. So Paz is a writer from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Her work has been published by Existir, Headlight Ontology, the Scripps College Journal, In Media Res, and The Lamp. She likes bullet points and asterisks. Right, please join me in welcoming Paz to the stage.
This is about eating. Do with that what you will. Every fact I have ever learned about food, since that little pyramid diagram from primary, has been against my will. Even the useful ones, like how one should order tomato juice on airplanes for maximum hydration. Now I can't bear to ask for any other drink when they roll down the carts through the carpeted aisles, even though the whole time I watch them approach slowly like a menace. I'm thinking I'd kill for a 7-Up. My ex-roommate, freshman year in California, got sent to the hospital that first weekend on account of tequila inexperience. Told me avocados are healthy fats. Never mind the healthy, I can't get over the fat part. I used to love putting them in my salads. Me and my salads. Fucking salads. I am a Sisyphus of kale. These holidays, I heard a phrase I hadn't heard in a while. Hacerse la flaca. It means to act like you are skinny, either by pretense or as flaunting. Both are dangerous. Weight has weight back home. I have fruit every now and then. I delight in sugar, but I can't have too much of it because it'll make me freak out, so it's not really delight. It's like having sex with someone you know you shouldn't and are left with all the bad parts as they keep on snoring in the morning. Like the ring of grime in a bathtub. You know, I once had a birthday party where we all sat at a long table and decorated cupcakes. I still remember the purple sprinkles. This must have been 11 years ago. The day after Valentine's Day. A sweltering summer in Buenos Aires, made tolerable by the icy pool, refrigerated by the formidable Araucaria. The chlorine was drying in our hair, blonde girls turning green, and we dipped our fingers in whipped egg whites and sugar, dulce de leche, melted milk chocolate. I can guarantee I licked all my fingers, and this was all before the birthday cake. The same girls, 2 years later, would have different outlooks on cupcakes. The first year of middle school, 3 classmates of mine had to miss the 3-day trip to San Clemente del Tuxú because they had been diagnosed as anorexic. I wasn't really sure how anorexia would prevent them from whale watching, yet I have to say I remember the sticks they had for legs under the tunics we had to wear. I'd watch them walking slowly down the hallway and imagine them tripping and shattering. It was hard not to. I thought of it as fragility then. My views have changed too. I think potatoes are okay. A dermatologist told me grain breaks you out. The ex-college roommate said the same about dairy. Everything is bad for something. I know it's not original to write about eating and its disorders, how it's bourgeois even. Hunger as a choice when the world is consuming itself. I'm not sure what defense there is other than pain. A weak defense. I'd like a moat. We know it's not really about vanity. We know it's not even about my body. We all know that, like most people, I hated myself, so I designed a daily mechanism to exercise cruelty. Figurative flagellation, femininity, and Catholicism being important factors to consider in light of the virtue of restriction. My American friend who did ballet and is still under its grip tried to convince me that I was elementally fucked up like her, and I told her, if that's true, everyone I know back home has an eating disorder. What worries me is this. Argentina is second in anorexia cases internationally. Japan has us beat. I think it's quite literally the opposite of the world from where I'm writing this, although we are united by a fictional thread that crosses the Earth's nucleus. Number 1, God help the Japanese. Let me tell you about my collarbones. Let me tell you about feeling confident most items in the dressing room will look good on my little body. Let me tell you how people break their backs to help me out and buy me drinks. Let me tell you about getting my period about every 110 days and always worrying I've gotten fat when I do, and that no one else will ever get me a gin and tonic, or lift up my suitcase up a step, or smile at me in the street, or want to hold my hand quietly at night, just to fill me. I used to tell people bread was my favorite food when I was younger. Any kind. I didn't even put butter on it. Bread and circus, all I needed. I read a poem about bread being inevitable, and I think about it like a prayer, as forgiveness, a caloric mantra. Did you know that apparently my mother forbade my sisters from commenting on my weight? I think about that a lot. The sixth sense of validation I'd predicted I'd get from her when my ribs started showing like the arches of the neighborhood church. Being proven right. Then again, sometimes she frowns at the way a t-shirt hangs on me, or if I turn down ice cream. I've never understood the woman. The respect I have for people who don't worry about any of this, for not applying these ridiculous standards to their body, for living outside of the mental chokehold. It rivals the respect I have for anyone thinner than I am, or intimate acquaintance with the pain of restriction, like an invisible mutual friend in the room. At some point, I looked at the kind strangers around me and I realized these people are congratulating me on being thin. Then I realized further it's the discipline, my work ethic. Lastly, I realized that if my body is mine and not theirs, I can look however I want. I can be ugly, I can have acne, I can have a bad haircut, I can even have meat and fat on my bones. And I'm trying to congratulate myself for knowing that, except, everything you've heard. Last week, I wrote the worst essay of my life on Samuel Beckett and self-consumption. Tomorrow, I will watch the Timothée Chalamet cannibal movie. For years, one of my favorite stories to tell has been about the Chilean plane crash survivors who report that human meat tastes like chicken. I am 22 and I am eating myself alive, like my loved ones before me. The anorexic ballerina who now does pole, a bulimic former high school athlete, and I walk into a Korean barbecue joint. It's the start of a joke and its punchline too. At the beach, I pull out the saltines and offer them to sad people. The bulimic said my diet was saltines and gum, and I said that's all you need to live. Are you okay? Said the anorexic. A question I had gotten used to after shaving my head the week before. My hip bones were filed and I wore them like accessories. I laughed as a response. I clock anyone skinnier than me. It's an odd mix of fear and resentment and kinship. One April day, I skimmed and scanned the entire populace at Disneyland with satisfaction, given that I was the skinniest rat person at the rat amusement park. Until 5 p.m. on the way out. A girl with toothpick legs. She was far younger than me and in a wheelchair. She looked like she was on her Make-A-Wish Foundation trip or something. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me, being jealous of that unhealthiness. I wanted to apologize to her. I still do. I remember which part of my tongue to send teriyaki sauce to, which glands thrive with ginger, the sector that blooms with the sweetness of peaches. One of these days, I will have chocolate.
So before our last reader comes up, I just want to plug one more time that we have beautiful issues that are available to buy, and you can buy them through e-transfer, cash, or check if you brought your checkbook. And I would also like to thank Kate Stern, Stephanie Bolster, and Stephen Yeager for their support with Headlight and making this event possible. And without further ado, I'd like to invite up Olive, who will then introduce our final reader. Thank you.
Hello again. We got it. Thank you all for being here today. It was such a lovely event. I'm so honored to introduce our last speaker today. When we were selecting pieces for issue 24, we reached out to Manahil for a piece, And if you've listened to our podcast episode, if you're a diehard Headlight fan, then you know that a big theme for us this year was serendipity, and the piece that we received from Manahil heavily features 24, which is, of course, the issue that we're reading from today. So I'm very excited to announce Manahil. Manahil Bandukwala is a writer and visual artist originally from Pakistan and now settled in Canada. She works as coordinating editor for Arc Poetry magazine and is digital content editor for Cantheus. She is a member of Ottawa-based collaborative writing group 7. Her debut poetry collection is Monument from Brick Books. Please welcome Manahil Bandukwala.
Hello. Just gonna set a timer on my phone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here in Montreal, to be part of the issue. I also am a big fan of serendipity, and the piece, kind of a poem essay hybrid thing, is called Turning 24 and the Rise of the Sturgeon Moon. And I wrote this a couple of years ago when I was turning 24. It's August now, it's been a blue moon month. There was a sturgeon moon earlier this month, and if you saw last night's full moon, it was beautiful. And if you're a poet and you love the moon, then it's a poem all about that. Turning 24 and the Rise of the Sturgeon Moon. A sturgeon, smiling or swimming. River level rises in late summer, waist high. Once it might have engulfed me. Salt. I forgot to look over my shoulder 2 weeks ago, and luck now eludes me. Was I dreaming, or is every sky pinker than the last? Snow catches fire 500 kilometers northwest of here. Here, the sturgeon smiles and swims. A full moon morphed, elongated, swishing water and mud at the lake end. Think hard about wishes before blowing out the candles, careful not to waste any. A wish is selfish. I wish for luck, to wish for time, or for more wishes. Sturgeon, wolf, hungry, hungering. Think back to last month, how every day felt thick. The month before, how the moon was beautiful and bloody. Get used to blood and red and copper. The reddest solstice of our lives so far, the pinkest the sky has been. Lick the sturgeon eggs beneath the lake, a mingling of smoke and salt. Hints of cream cheese frosting between the wax. 3 birthday cakes, and each candle on each cake is the same wish, as if the 3rd time is when it sticks. As if elongating the moment between the song and blowing out all the candles in a single breath will pause the smoke. Sturgeons, searching water. Live at the cusp of the full sturgeon moon, an abundance of fish in the lakes and rivers of this hemisphere. The wind carries faint howls and hunger. Ask me of time, birth time, of the time the moon will be at its fullest, but daylight floods the sky. The sun is the sole witness to the moon this month. But if not the sun's flood, then smoke, then water waist high, then the opaque film of blood. Had I looked over my shoulder at the new moon, I might have caught a moment of luck on my net. As though luck could, like a sturgeon, swim out of the haze. Now all I am left with are wishes, effective as luck, as elusive. The net is torn, a tangle of string. So many names for the same thing, dependent on the latitude and the angle at which the body is turned to the sky. So many signs pointing to the end ahead. fear sturgeons swimming each lake. Each summer day a new film of smoke. Fire and fire and fire and fire and cicadas scream, each day louder than the last, screaming to find a mate while there is still time. This might be the last cycle of mating they have. Or they might emerge 13 years later and find all the smoke cleared away, and August sturgeons leaping against the silhouette of a full moon. But sturgeons are not fish that leap up against full moons. This is the imagined future where imagination runs. River rising, summer more than halfway through. Was I dreaming, or did snow really catch fire outside my window? Snow falls in summer somewhere. How else to explain all this smoke? I made 24 wishes, each the wish the same. In essence, to survive, to survive, to survive. Thank you. I will say it is a bit strange reading that piece after a summer of a lot of wildfire smoke, and this was the first summer it kind of affected Toronto, where I live. So, yeah, just want to say like the Headlight issue is so beautiful. So do pick up a copy. I was really excited when I received the print physical copy in the mail. And I'm just going to share a couple more poems from my book, Monument. The entire book is one long conversation with Mughal Empress Mumtaz Mahal. And so I'm just going to read the first couple. Root. An elephant once wrapped its trunk around my mother's pregnant belly. I thought you would appreciate this, Ergina. You, who went to the Deccan Plateau when pregnant with your 14th child. My Dadi was born where you died in a battle of your own. Ergina, if India lets me beyond its border, instead of the Taj Mahal in Agra, I will fly to Burhanpur, to your first resting place. Shahi Kila, now a ruin. If your spirit is still tethered, float southeast to find, folded under crumpled rock, a poem, while I walk the labyrinth and listen to your footsteps echoing. Petrify, and this one has an epigraph from Sylvia Plath's The Rival that reads, and your first gift is making stone out of everything. I wake to a mausoleum. You are here, ticking your fingers on the marble table. Making stone out of everything. Elephants, the flowers withered from their trampling. Palms curled over into an arch under which you read, yourself, yourself, yourself. Your body did not decompose into dust, but began a slow petrification. Waking in a mausoleum, soul squeezed out of the tips of your marble fingers. You are alone, the incorporeal part of you, the texture of stone. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you so much for coming. And do you have anything else to add, Misha? You are released to go buy your books. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for joining us online and in person for these beautiful readings, which I will remind you all have been recorded and are available on the Fourth Space YouTube channel for you to watch and enjoy all over again. We're going to close up the Zoom in a moment. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks again. Bye.